Thank you, Dr. Tushya. PCR, as we all know, even in the best of the hands, can have an incidence of around less than 4%. Each time we have a PCR, even if it's once in a while, it scares the surgeon out of us. So we have to know if it is because of the equipment, or is it because of the ergonomics or the patient related factors, which can be extraocular because of deep set eyes, or can be ocular because of corneal issues or shallow anterior chamber depths, or it can also be because of any surgeon factor. Uh, the mechanism of PCR, as we've all seen, can happen initially in the initial time, or it can happen during emulsification, or it can happen even during irrigation and aspiration. During hydrodissection, we have to be very careful to check the outflow of the cannula to see if there is any blockage because of any small capsulorhexis or small pupil. We have to be also very careful that the injection of fluid has to be guarded. It should not be too much of fluid in one go. And at times, when we have a posterior polar cataract, we have to be sure that we do not do a hydrodissection. We only do a hydrodelineation if possible to prevent any inherent weakness from turning into PCR. If it is during nuclear management, how do we check if, what do we do for these cases? So this is the case. Just go in for the video. The video is not playing. Yeah. So just carefully look at this video. Very gingerly the surgeon is trying to sculpt, but because it's a soft cataract, even with low power, you can see a PCR happening there. With the first division, you can note that there is a PCR that has already happened. In such a case, when you have a soft cataract, you can actually take out the whole nucleus without enlarging the incision, and then do a dry aspiration without using any irrigation in the anterior chamber to avoid any extension of the posterior capsule rupture. And if the rhexis is large, if it is more than 6 mm and you cannot convert it into a posterior capsular rhexis, you can do a sulcus implanted 3-piece IOL and do an optic capture if possible. It can also happen in cases wherein there can be last nuclear piece, and at times the anterior chamber is shallow in such cases, or you're using high power because of high grades of cataract. Even despite inflating the anterior chamber to prevent the posterior capsule from wobbling or coming up, there at times can be situations where you can have a PCR during the last piece removal. In such situations, the best technique to follow, like Dr. Amar told, is to implant a 3-piece IOL in the sulcus, take the scaffold of the IOL, and then take out the nuclear piece. So here we are enlarging the posterior capsule rupture which happened. We are fashioning the rhexis in such a fashion that there is no tag. However, in this case, we could see a small tag there, but still we could manage the case by implanting the IOL in the bag itself and emulsifying the nucleus thereafter. However, but it is very, very essential that we complete the rhexis, posterior capsular rhexis, so that to prevent any extension. Classical signs of posterior capsule rupture, such as sudden deepening of anterior chamber pupil snap sign, or increased fundal glow, or reduced followability, nucleus tilt or drop, can occur, and these have to be looked for. When you look at any classical sign, such as in this case where Dr. Tushya had already shown the case, wherein the surgeon was trying to do a rhexis, however there was an anterior capsular tear, and then there was like he showed you, the flap motility sign could be seen initially. However, the surgeon continued being oblivious of the fact that there is a flap motility sign that has to be taken care of. The surgeon continued, and because of the other maneuvers, there was a difficult rotation in the nucleus and there could be a tilt seen. However, still the surgeon continued, and because of the wraparound tear of that anterior capsular tear, there was a nucleus drop in this case. So we have to be very, very sure of the newest sign that we have with us, which is the flap motility sign, to look for it. There can also be a case wherein you have a mature cataract and you don't know if the patient already has a PC tear, like in cases of posterior polar cataracts. You have to look in for that pupil snap sign. During irrigation and aspiration, however, at times it usually happens when there is a subincisional cortex that you have to take out. But in this case, there was a small tag of cortex which was left. The surgeon tried to look for the capsular tag In such cases, we can actually leave this tag and do an IOL implant and take out the cortex later on. However, we have to be very, very sure that the anterior chamber is deep enough, has to be inflated with a viscoelastic like a cohesive so that or a dispersive so that the PC is kept behind, and the irrigation aspiration port has to face upwards always. The irrigation aspiration port here is sideways, and if you look at it carefully, there would be a PC tear that's seen because of the irrigation aspiration port. Here is the PC tear that happens. In such a case, don't take out the probe immediately, put viscoelastic from the side port and try to make a PCC and put an implant, intraocular lens. During OVD implantation, there can be times wherein the bubble which can cause a PC tear. Such cases also have been seen. This is a very rare case wherein the plunger was stuck and the IOL went so forcefully that it went right into the vitreous cavity. So when the posterior capsular rent is small, or is it less than 6 mm, we have to we have to fashion the edges of the capsular rexus, make it a continuous one, and then we can implant either the capsular IOL in the bag, or we can implant it in the sulcus. However, there can be times when we have a nucleus drop. This patient was being managed and suddenly he moved the head. The phaco probe and the chopper came out, and there was a PC tear in this case, and as you can see, there was a drop thereafter. So all that we can do in such cases is have a retina team backup, or do an core anterior vitrectomy, or send the patient over to the retina surgeon for further management. Thank you.
Dr. Shruti, can you continue with PPC with pre-existing?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I have two cases which are unedited cases. The first one is a soft cataract with PPC with pre-existing PCR, and the second one is going to be a medium hard to hard cataract. In soft cataracts, if you see a PCR like that pre-existing in cases of posterior polar cataracts, we can do a hydrodelineation. So in these cases, the incision has to be calibrated. The incision has to be a micro incision so that there is less efflux of the OVD. The oval rexus is fashioned here. Oval rexus gives us an advantage of small as well as large rexus. Hydrodelineation in different layers is carried out in this case. Carrying out hydrodelineation in different layers gives us an ease of taking out the nucleus, this kind of a soft nucleus, without enlarging the pre-existing tear. With low parameters of phacoemulsification and low intraocular pressure or lower bottle height, we can easily take out these nuclear cores without rotating the nucleus. So the catch here is that we don't have to rotate the nucleus, we have to gingerly remove these different layers that we have delaminated. Generally, in posterior polar cataracts, even if there is a pre-existing tear, it wouldn't enlarge if there is, if you take care of the parameters of during phacoemulsification, and you cause less of the maneuvers inside the anterior chamber are they are swift. So after you have taken out the delaminated nucleus, you have to inject viscoelastic, and then do the take out the probe and do the cortical removal. In such cases, you can also do dry aspiration of the cortex. However, we could see in this case that there was hardly any extension of the posterior capsular tear that we could see, and so irrigation aspiration of the cortex was done in a tangential fashion. So once the cortex is completely aspirated, again we have to take care that viscoelastic is inserted before taking out the irrigation aspiration probe. So during these steps, whenever we have to decompress, whenever we have to take out the probes, we have to fill in back with the OVD so that the anterior chamber is completely maintained. So here we are injecting viscodispersive. And since we can see the PC tear to be not a regular one, we are fashioning the posterior capsular tear into a posterior capsular rexus. So after it is fashioned into a complete rhexis, an IOL can be implanted if it is less than 6 mm into the bag, or it can be implanted in the sulcus with a optic capture. The oval rhexis would give you an advantage of capturing the IOL by giving a small rhexis advantage, and also it would have a big rhexis advantage of giving you an sufficient area of overlap. I'll go on to the next case, which is a medium hard to hard cataract with a pre-existing tear in a PPC. Again, a 2.2 mm incision is fashioned, which is a calibrated small incision, so that there is less egress of OVD while we are making the rhexis, or during any maneuvers during the phacoemulsification procedure. The anterior chamber is filled with viscodispersive. It is the cornea as well as the endothelium is protected, and the iris also is protected with the viscodispersive. An oval rhexis again is fashioned in this case. When you have a patient who is 50 years or plus, you will generally have a cataract which is medium hard. Even in a PPC, it would be a medium hard cataract where you cannot attempt a hydrodelineation. In such cases, if you try to attempt hydrodelineation, there would not be enough wave to cause delamination. So in such cases, we avoid doing any kind of hydro procedure. There is no hydrodissection or hydrodelineation done. Soft trenching is done so that there is a minimal movement of the nucleus. There is no push onto the nucleus. There is no push downwards or in horizontal fashion. Once the trench is sufficiently deep, with minimal forces that are applied on the trench edges, the nucleus is divided thoroughly through and through. From a thorough horizontal dissection of the nucleus, division of the nucleus is done. Once this is carried forth, cross chopping of the nucleus is carried on. For cross chopping, you have to hold the tip. We have to occlude the tip at the lateral margin of the chopped trench, and then take out the cross chopped quadrant. So this would allow, this would prevent any rotational forces onto the posterior capsule, which can enlarge the rhexis, which can enlarge the tear. So without movement or without rotation of the nucleus is taken out. This is again an unedited video. So easily, without rotation of the nucleus, one can hold on, by increasing the vacuum a little, you can hold on the nucleus and emulsify it. Such maneuvers would prevent any extension in the posterior capsular tear, and also would allow a complete removal of the nucleus without any nucleus drop. And in between the procedure, if you feel that the anterior chamber is collapsing, or if you feel that there is any probability of the tear to enlarge, you can always go back and refill the anterior chamber with a viscodispersive. So once the nucleus piece is out, here you can also implant a 3-piece IOL like Dr. Agarwal has shown, and do an IOL scaffold, or if you feel that you're safe enough, you can bring out the nuclear piece in the anterior chamber and emulsify it gingerly. And again, without taking out the probe, we have injected the viscoelastic agent, and tangentially we are stripping off the cortical matter from the capsule. And once the cortical matter is out, here you can see in both the cases there has been no nucleus drop, there has been no cortical matter that has gone behind. Usually in such cases the anterior hyaloid face is intact, and it would prevent any kind of nucleus drop, or it would prevent any kind of cortex going behind. Here dry aspiration is being carried out to take out that subincisional part of the cortex, and the IOL can be seen being implanted further on. So here also 3-piece IOL has been implanted in the sulcus, and since the tear is more than 6 mm in diameter, you cannot fashion the edges and put an implant in the bag. So the IOL is being implanted in the sulcus, and in such cases you can do an optic capture. That's about the case. Thank you.